And then Tyler and Paige, you guys are gonna be my candidates today for role play.
Perfect.
So cool, we'll jump into it. So I always like to talk about this again, goals, ambitions. I think it's important that we all create an environment where we're able to. So I'll give you an example. I went to a workshop last night. And one of the things that the workshop had us do was you had to write down 7 things you accomplished today, 7 things you accomplished this month, and 7 things that you are going to accomplish next month in past tense, right? And a big recurring theme in that practice was, what's up, man? Big recurring theme in that practice is that it's not super common for people to talk about their accomplishments. And, you know, in today's society, everybody, if you go online and you say, oh, I'm having a bad day, it's like, oh, girl, it's going to be okay. You know, like everybody's quick to jump on the negative and, you know, pat you on the back and say everything's going to be all right. Or be like, oh, yeah, this week sucks, right? But it's very uncommon for people to kind of claim a positive aspiration or goal or achievement, right? And so what I want to do is just give you guys the environment that you can tell me about your big goals. You can tell every one of your teammates about your big goals or your achievements or your wins, because really that's what we should be focused on, is the positive, not the negative, right? Like, oh, you had a bad week, that's okay, but what did you write, right? So again, I always like to talk about this. Something that we talk about at KW is the principle of be, do, have, then give. So I'm going to repeat this every week. It's going to get really tedious, but I'm really trying to like drill this into your subconscious mind that that's how you should think about things, right? Is that before you have the power to have something, or in other words, get the results. So before you're a top agent, before you're a great dad, before you're a great spouse, before you're a good friend, right? You have to become something first, which takes a conscious choice to change who you are as a person and get the right resources, training tools, people around you to create that change in yourself, which then gives you the power to do the right things that give you the obviously results, or in other words, the have, right? The ability to have that. And once you go through that full cycle, then you can give. So for example, let's use Tyler, right? If Tyler keeps going at the pace he's going and learning all these things, right? He's going to not only have to become a better agent, he's going to take the actions that a better agent would, you know, take. Then he's going to have the results, and then he can then give, in other words, teach someone on the team, a new student that comes on, what worked for him coming up, right? So I'd love to hear from you guys. What is a big goal that you have? I know Tyler wants, we always joke in our text about driving Rolls Royces one day, just for fun. But what's a big goal you guys have that maybe you've never told anybody, or something that's like so far fetched, but one day you want to achieve it and you never even said it out loud? What's up?
I said, I mean, I want to drive a G-Wagon.
She wants to drive a G-Wagon.
She's driving a G-Wagon.
You need a big house for that,
Yeah.
right? Big 3-car garage. That's awesome.
Can anybody
Cash-
chime in here?
Yeah, let's hear it.
I want to have a business so successful that it makes me literally have to buy a jet.
I love it. It's a good problem to have. The Ed Milet guy, I played a few of his videos for you guys. He talks about how, I was listening to one of his talks, and he goes, I always love it when I go to like a door-to-door company or a big sales conference with people and talk, because you got the dudes in the front seat wearing their Rolexes who think they're the shit, making $1 million a year. And he's like, I can't even fuel my jet for that much per year. And I was like, think about that. Like, that's a whole, and obviously he wasn't trying to be boastful, but he's just making a point that like, you can't get complacent. You can't think that just because you reach a certain level that you're done, that the game's over, because it never ends, right? There's always a better you, a better, you know, thing you could aspire to. So I appreciate you sharing that, Cash. I've told you guys mine a couple of times, but I set this goal when I was 15. So when I was 14, my aspirations were I couldn't wait till I got out of school so I could get a shitty 1-bedroom apartment and drink beer and play Xbox because I hated my life so much, right? By the time I was 15 and started taking actions to change who I was, I just had a crazy goal one day. I'm like, man, what would it be like within 10 years if I could be a millionaire? What if I could be a millionaire by the time I was 25? So that's a goal that I've really held myself not as accountable as I could have over the years, but that's a goal that I still aim to achieve. And that gives me less than 2 years to make that happen. So I've got to get some stuff done, right? But I'm happy to share that with you guys, because I know that, like I say, it's important to talk about your big goals, because if they just stay in here, they're never going to become a reality. So I'll give you guys a couple seconds. Who else can share? I know, Mariah, you mentioned you want to pick up 2 rentals. So that's a huge goal. Does anybody in your family own rental properties? So you'd be the first, not only buy 1, but 2, right? What would that do for your family? Right?
Give us a lot more freedom.
Yep. Long-term as well would be astronomical.
I guess there's one I've been thinking about the past couple of days, but just get to the point where someone brings up real estate in any type of like day-to-day, then their first thought is like, oh, Tyler Stubbs, Paige Stubbs. Kind of like someone's like, oh, I'm doing summer sales. Your first thought is, oh, are you with Vivint?
Right.
Are you working for like Todd, you know?
Yeah.
Oh, are you working with Tyler? Like,
Right.
oh, do you know the Stubbs, you know?
Yeah. Become omnipresent. Basically
Right.
get to the point for within your social circles. If real estate comes up, you do as well.
Mm.
Yeah. I love that. Anybody else have anything to share?
Be an owner of a sports team.
There, dude, that is awesome. Any sports team in particular?
We would like the Dolphins, but yeah, that's,
You'll settle for the Browns?
yeah. We'll
Yeah. Well, one day Cade's gonna be a sports team owner. He's gonna be a wealthy old man just balling out. That's awesome. I love that. Well, cool. We'll move on. But like I say, every week I just want you guys to think of a big goal. It could be the same one. You could say the same thing every week, but that's kind of the point. It's the repetition of like your mind has to see it first before your reality ever is going to, right? Like it starts here before it starts anywhere else. They say if you want to see what a person thinks about most of the time, look at their life, right? So if you see someone who's continuously having money problems, what do they probably think about all the time? They worry about money all the time. You think about someone who has a great marriage, great family. What do you think they think about all the time? What are their thoughts like? Probably pure, positive, you know, and obviously reinforcing their belief. So cool. We'll move on real quick. So big wins for this week. Oh, the slide got hidden. So I know two. Cash took 2 BBAs last week. So that was awesome. So good job to Cash. And that was due to Cash. You told me it was SOI calls.
Yep, both
What
of
was
them. SOI calls.
What was the secret? What was the actually, let me ask you a different question. What was the change you made in your calls that got you those two?
Intentionality.
Right.
So I was intentional about what I was trying to accomplish in the phone call rather than just calling and saying, hey, I'm a realtor now. Like, do you know anybody that wants to, you know, move, wants to buy or sell real estate? Like being intentional with it. That's what
Yep.
changed.
Other words, asking for a referral. And that's a great thing too, is with the script I've given you guys, we can do that in a way that doesn't come across as pushy or salesy or anything. Because the thing is that like there's a saying in sales, it's like give, then take, or then close, right? Like you have to give so much first up front before you ever consider trying to get something in return from your prospect or client or whoever you're working with, even in a personal level, right? Like, so I think that with the script we've set up, it gives you the opportunity to really let that person feel heard, really get to know them and build that relationship before you ever even bring up anything about you. So that conversation is so much smoother, but also the way you ask it is not in a way of like, who do you know looking to buy or sell? It's like, hey, I have a big goal this year. Would you support me? I mean, 90% of people, I mean, they tell you no, like they're just mean, you know, but like if Kate came up to me and says, man, I have a goal to like hit the gym 4 days this week. Like, could I count on you to support me? I'd be like, hell yeah, dude. Like, I'll go with you. Right. Like, that's just how most people are, is like, they're so willing to help if you ask for it. And so if you almost like present it in that way, not only is it more comfortable for you and kind of more, in a sense, uncomfortable, because then you have to put your goal out there, which is just going to reinforce it in your mind. But then with that person, they're gonna be more willing to support you. And then Karen's not here today, but she actually took a listing using our new listing presentation. She crushed it. So super proud of her. That was great. Birthdays. So Paige, your birthday is tomorrow. So happy birthday. If I see you or don't see it. Tyson's on the 26th, Catherine's on the 25th, and Garrett's on the 25th as well. So if you see them, wish them a happy belated birthday. Oh, there it is. Something got switched around. Cool. So pro team trainings. So next week, obviously 4th of July, office is closed. We'll go through before we leave today, just a basic schedule on what is pretty typical moving forward. Oh, hi, how's it going? You're totally good. On what's typical moving forward, because the schedule has changed a bit with the summertime. Monday, obviously there's nothing. Tuesday, we have Transaction Tuesday. They're not doing a KWT meeting. We're also doing a launch session. I would be happy if you guys would like to do group lead generation, or really if you need anything, just reach out. That's a free day where you guys can pick my brain. I'll be available. Thursday, we have pro team meeting and then shift training right after. We're going to talk about shift training in just a second. But again, this team meeting from now on is going to be very much training specific. It's not just show up, get the warm and fuzzies and get some food and go home. Like, we're going to actually deep dive. And this will, as you progress through the program, this will be your main opportunity to get help and training with specific things, along with working with buyers and sellers or creative ways to get business in general. And then we'll talk about group coaching here in a second, but that will be your opportunity weekly to get accountability and support from the rest of the team in your weekly pursuits. So Keep moving on. This is shift tactics. Have you guys heard of this so far? If you haven't, raise your hand. Okay, perfect. So obviously our founder, Gary Keller, wrote a book called Shift, which is all about how to navigate a shifting market and thrive, not just survive in that type of market. So our office, we've come to the office and asked them to really push a lot of valuable training throughout this time because it is going to get harder before it gets easier. But if you show up and work, I promise you that you will make a lot of progress and generally build a great business throughout this time. And then when the market turns again, it'll be a piece of cake. You'll have so much momentum. You'll just be making money left to right, helping people all the time. So what we've done here is we have 12 different sessions every Thursday for an hour. The first 30 minutes is a deep dive tactical training on any of these topics with these top agents. And then the last 30 minutes is a mastermind. So this is an opportunity for you guys to get around the best of the best and learn specific tactical strategies to get you through the shifting market. This is not something that you should just show up once for and then not come again. If you tell me you're coming to this, I expect to see you there every time, or at the very minimum, watching the videos. This will not be on Zoom. It will be in person only. And it's very important to use this because this is like Ignite on steroids. Like this is the very applicable training you need for this time. Every single one of the people on here last year easily closed over $20 million worth of volume. In other words, they made at least $500,000 or more and helped 50, 60 plus families, right? So absolute crushers. And I know that they're going to make it through this turning market. So it's good to piggyback off of their knowledge. Again, every Thursday at 11. So from now on, our team meeting will be right before this from 9:30 to 11. And then we'll jump into this training together as a group and kind of powwow about it, make sure we're masterminding on everything. Ignite classes. We restart Ignite on July 11th. I'm going to give you guys 2 ways you can go about this. So because it's summertime and attendance is slightly down. Oh, hi, sweet. You can set them. Yeah, that's perfect. If you guys want bagels, feel free to get up and grab them. We restart Ignite again Monday. So you guys have a couple options. So part of the program we've set up here is that you kind of can progress through it in the sense of if you want to continue to build your business and get additional help, resources, and support, there is a graduation or progression type system like we've talked about, right? So if you have missed Ignite sessions, you have the option of coming in person. But what I've had a few of the students do, if you go on the YouTube channel and watch the video and give me 5 takeaways from each video on notes, I will pass you off and you can graduate without having to restart the whole 20 sessions. Because I still think until you cap, you should go to Ignite at least once a week, because there's something valuable there you're going to pick up from that agent every single time we flip to new instructors. So there's an opportunity for you to get essentially a one-on-one. If you show up and participate, most people don't. You can literally pick Angie Fisher's brain or whoever's brain for a good 2 hours and get tons of nuggets away from that. But again, I restart the session on July 11th at 9:30. And then we'll be doing 2 sessions a week instead of 3 all the way through around September when we get done with the 20 sessions. So I'd love to see you there. But again, you can watch the videos and give me 5 takeaways if you'd like to progress a little bit quicker. So we got on Ignite. Some trainings coming up this next week of classes. We got Transaction Tuesday, so it'll no longer be held on Thursday, only on Tuesday. I will say, Jen is the type of person that she just shows up ready to help. She doesn't really have an agenda specifically for you. So if you need help on case studies, you have a question on, let's just put it this way. Jen is the eyes and ears behind the scenes for some of the top agents in our office. So even if you jumped on that call and thought of it as hey, I've got an hour to pick Jen's brain, let her just go on a tangent. And I promise, that one day she went over open house marketing and everything. You'll pick up on so much just by default, right? Just by being there. We have all about seller financing, assuming loans and lease options. So something that happens in this type of market where interest rates are so high is that traditional mortgages are not going to be the only option to get buyers into houses, right? Or commercial deals. So there's something called seller financing, which is where the seller will actually sell the property to the buyer, but keep the loan in their name. So let's say the seller has a 2.75% interest rate and the buyer wants to buy their home. They can actually sell the buyer their home, but keep the loan in their name. Or in other words, if let's say the seller owns the house outright, there's a whole different situation here, but the seller owns the house outright, they can actually do some form of what's the word I'm looking for, promissory note to have that person pay them back over time, right? And so these are things that you're definitely going to want to learn because I've never used either of these. I'll be honest with you. I have no idea how any of these work. I will be at this training because I didn't have to for the last 3 years because interest rates were low. The market was easy. It's not going to be moving forward.
I just wanted to mention that it's funny that we're talking about this because I had a call and this lady is doing seller financing, but I didn't know that you could do it twice. Like she's seller financing from this guy is seller financing from the owner, and it's
Yes.
a mess. Wouldn't that be risky though? Maybe that's a good question for the.
Yeah, that's, yes, there are
Yeah.
different, it's different because you're not getting Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac involved in these other loan companies. It's usually person to person, right? But I'll give you an example. Like, so when you get into real estate, you are self-employed, which means if you don't have another source of W-2 income, you need 2 years to qualify to buy a rental property. Well, I know personal experience, don't do that. That was a stupid idea. It costed me hundreds of thousands of dollars to wait the 2 years. What I should have been doing the entire time is learning about things like this. So like Clay Winder in our office and Johnny Christensen, the people that own the building and, you know, pretty much do all the production here, right? When they bought their first rental property, they did a seller finance deal. It worked out perfectly for them. They owned a condo in Orem that cost them $100,000 that today's probably worth over 300 and has been paying them money every single month since like 2007, right? So just crazy stuff. Boyd Brown, he's the one who owns our office, the South Valley office and the Salt Lake office, and is one of the largest commercial land developers in Utah. Him, along with others in our office, are developing over 300 acres in Salem alone right now. So these are the type of people you want to associate with because they're going to teach you stuff that will get you so much further ahead. We've got the realities of meth contamination. So I'll be honest, I've had 3 properties in the last 90 days test positive for meth, one of which was borderline meth lab levels. So it's important for you to know how to navigate that because most people, when they hear meth, they panic, right? And you don't want to be that agent that's making a transaction even more emotional because you don't have the right skill set to work through these type of issues. It's fairly simple, but I think this training will be useful for you guys to understand things like how to decontaminate, where are the hotspots for meth found, what are the disclosure rules? So if a house tests positive for meth and the buyer cancels, what does the seller have to do moving forward, right? And then finance and wealth building series taught by Kristen Cole. So this is just a general like personal finance related training, all about, you know, I guess setting yourself up for success with your money. Cool. Here is our new buyer presentation. So I did not have Ritz put the editable slides on here. I'm happy to pop off and go to Canva, but I just want to give you guys a rundown real quick. Would you guys like to be my buyers?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So a couple tidbits before we get started. Best practices when it comes to doing your buyer presentation. I like to do them at the office for a couple different reasons. Number one, it's easier for me to present off the conference room TVs, feels more professional for the client. It just kind of sets the tone for a more formal meeting versus just popping by their house and doing it then, right? You can do it at their house, but obviously you'd want to do it on a laptop of some sort because it's a lot harder and weirder to do it in paper, just speaking from experience. So anyways, so when I set up my appointments, I don't pitch this as a buyer consultation. What does that sound like? Like if I called Kay tomorrow and I said, hey, you're interested in buying a house, why don't you come by and have a consultation with me?
Sounds like you're trying to sell something.
Yes, right. So what I like to do, and we even may change the name on it, we just did buyer consultation, that's what it's called before, but the whole point of this is your chance to educate your clients. What I usually call this is my buyer crash course. So why don't you come, you know, to my office for 20 or 30 minutes? I'll run you through the whole buying process. By the time you leave, you know, I understand the ins and outs of buying a home, the costs associated, who's involved, you have a game plan on how to move forward. How's that sound? It's a lot different than a consultation, right? Because I'm here as an educator. Give me an idea of what benefits you'd get with a client by establishing yourself as their coach, educator, consultant versus a salesperson.
Then when they have any questions, just say, come to
Bingo.
the teacher.
Yep. Tyler said, because if you set it up this way, then when they have questions in the future, whether they're a prospect for today or 2 years from down the road, you're going to set yourself up as the person they think of when they have real estate questions. That's the goal, right? So whether someone says I'm 2 years out, I'm 1 month out, I need to buy a house in 2 weeks, this is what we do every single time without fail. For 2 reasons. Number one, it sets proper expectations and tone as well as education for your clients. And number two, if you do it properly, you'll get a buyer broker signed every single time, which means regardless if they're 1, 2, 3 years out, it doesn't matter. You have a client locked down and willing to work with you moving forward. You're not going to end up losing someone or finding out 6 months later, oh, they went and bought with someone else because I took their word for it and, you know, told them I'd check in with them in a year, right? You're establishing yourself as the professional, as their resource, as well as setting the expectation for how things will go. So this will be a little informal because normally I'm sitting around a table. We're just going to pretend they're my clients. So be like, hey guys, you know, listen, I appreciate you guys stopping by today. Just want to make sure you both have my contact info. Normally what I do is I'll actually start a group chat when this is all over. So that way we're all on the same page. And that way when I have updates, it's easy to send them to both of you at the same time. Is that cool?
Yep.
Awesome. Any questions before we get started? I'll usually ask something like that just to Maybe they jump into something more deep dive. Well, yeah, we had a question about like interest rates and okay, cool. No worries, we're actually going to cover a bunch of that here in a second. I just want to make sure if we get started, I kind of know what questions you're coming into it with. You may have a small conversation with them before you get started, then you move forward. Cool. So I always like to talk about what's available when purchasing a home, right? So conflicting and confusing information, leaving most buyers, so I'm going to restart actually. I've changed this from mine. Mine used to be like what's taught in school, because most of my buyers that I present this to are like first-time buyers in my age group. But if you're presenting it to a 60-year-old man, probably not applicable. He hasn't been in school for a while. So I always like to ask a question: what's available about purchasing a home? And usually I let them answer.
Nothing really.
Right. So in my opinion, conflicting and confusing information, leaving most buyers feeling discouraged and or having incorrect information. For example, you may talk to your mom, sister, brother's cousin, and find out from one person you need 20% down, from another it's a bad time to buy, from a third it's a great time to buy. How does that leave you feeling?
Confused.
Right.
Stressed.
So my whole goal, right, is to, well, so let me back up again. Because of this, I feel like it's my duty to not only provide excellent service to my clients, but also take on the role of an educator and coach. So that way I can be that person that's filtering all the information and making sure it's applicable to your specific situation. How's that sound?
Sounds great.
Awesome. So with me, your needs come first. Your needs drive how and when we find you your next home. Obviously, normally by now you would have internalized this. I just put this together, so I have not memorized this by scratch. My presentation was very similar to this, although this one is slightly different. So from this day forward, everything I do will be motivated by your goals and how you imagine your life taking place in your new home. Once I get an understanding of where you'll see yourself, finding your dream home will move quickly and with minimal interruption in your daily life. So I like to say I'd rather ask you 500 questions and show you 5 houses than ask you 5 questions and show you 500 homes. I'd like to save you time. How's that sound?
Sounds awesome.
Awesome. So game plan. This is where meeting with me allows you to voice any wants, needs, and concerns you have. It also is an opportunity for me to set expectations for what's achievable and realistic and how to make it happen, right? So a couple questions. What's your favorite way to receive information or updates? Email, yeah. So I made changes because we had a situation with Tyler using this where the client said, oh, I only want to be emailed. That's, you don't want to box yourself in so much, right? And so a way you could handle this is say, okay, you prefer email, that's totally fine. Normally what I'll do is if I email you and I don't, if it's something I'm trying to get an update on and I don't hear back from you for a few days, I'll probably call you. Is that okay?
Yep.
Right, set that expectation up front. Like just because you said email doesn't mean I'm only going to email you. It's just like, if someone's like, I'm busy all day, I don't want you to call me, cool, I'll text you. But like, if there's an emergency, I still have your phone number, I'm still gonna call you, right? What's the best time to reach you? I'm curious, what's your usual work schedule like?
I'm free. Well, I'm free in the mornings before 9 and then anytime after like 4.
Awesome,
Yeah, I'm very good at that.
perfect, right? And so normally this is interactive, so you're actually checking the box with that person, making some notes. The great thing with this is this not only allows you to let them feel heard and express what they're feeling or going through, but also later you can reference this as your guide for interacting with that client, right? It's like your handy book on Tyler and Paige as your buyers, right? So I'm just curious. I always like to ask people, what's making you buy now? What's your motivation for starting this process?
Sick of renting.
Right?
Yeah.
So are you guys month to month or are you on a lease right now?
I'm released
When'd your lease get over?
June. Next June.
Next June. Okay, no problem. So and obviously this is off cuff from the presentation, but you'll learn that even people that are in leases, you could still work with them because there's ways to sublease. There are some landlords that will let them out of the lease, especially with where the rental market's moving. A lot of people have a long-term lease or locked into lower than current market rents. And so most landlords are actually happy to lose a renter as long as they know they can fill that spot because they're renting it for $1,800 and now it's $2,000. It doesn't make sense. There's a benefit to both. Well, cool. I'm just curious. Would you guys say you have to move in 30 to 45 days or you're kind of flexible? It sounds like you're flexible based on the 1-year lease. Is that right?
Yeah, we're pretty flexible.
And you guys are buying it. Normally you'd find this out ahead of time, but if not, again, this is why this is here. So are you guys looking at this more of like a long-term investment or is this just going to be a personal residence?
Hopefully a personal residence, then in the future, when we move from there, like investment, rental property.
Maybe buy one now and then in a couple of years, move out, buy another one,
Yeah.
like house hacking.
Uh-huh.
Awesome. Love to hear it. Well, I'm curious, is there anyone else besides you two involved in this decision?
No.
Okay, so no co-signers, parents, family, friends? Perfect. How long have you guys been looking? And honestly, what type of house are you looking for?
We've only been looking for like a week.
Browsing
No.
online?
Huh?
Just browsing online,
Yeah.
window shopping?
Yeah, we don't really care. what type of house either.
Cool. So you guys are open? Would you say you're open to renovations or you wanting something that's move-in ready right now?
Yeah, I'd be fine with some, maybe not like something crazy, but
Yeah,
little stuff.
minor updating,
Right.
like livable now, but maybe needs a little bit of love.
Yeah.
Cool. What are your general preferences for the kitchen?
Dishwasher.
Okay.
Big stove.
Nice.
Microwave.
Microwave. That works. Who'll be living in the house? Just you two, or do you guys have any kids or pets or anything like that?
Us two that are in the puppy.
Nice. What kind of dog do you have?
Mini birdie doodle.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you love about your current home or any other home? Again, there are certain things about this, just reading through this, I may tweak just because I like asking questions, but I'm also not trying to just turn it into a complete interview. But these are the general goal with this was just to give you guys ideas of what you could ask throughout this process to try to learn their situation. So later you don't accidentally send them a condo when they say they want a single family, or no yard when they specifically told you in their appointment, because that makes someone question your credibility when you're not hearing them, right?
I got a question. So while you're going through these days, are you taking notes?
On the actual presentation, this is just a screenshot. The presentation I built, you guys, these are all fillable. So you're literally,
So you're doing.
when you're talking with them, you're literally clicking on it and going, okay, because that's the saying, you're actively listening and taking notes, not only to help them feel heard, but then later you could be like, okay, that was like 30-minute appointment. I'm not going to remember all that. Let me just quickly go through and remember the important details.
I made a mistake. I don't know why mine is not fillable because I actually created and downloaded it. Maybe I'm not supposed to download it.
No, you can, but
You can fill it on Canva.
True
and
that.
then download it, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I need to find a way to do it because I went through the presentation and then I didn't remember a thing.
yep.
And it was horrible because I had to ask. when I
Again, right.
Should have taken notes.
No, it's okay. And that's I've been doing this long enough that I can just talk to someone. Like if Mariah called me today and it was a sign call and she called me when I was driving to an appointment and she told me she's looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in West Jordan. She wants a big yard. She's got 2 dogs. I would just remember that,
Oh my God.
right? And even if I had to go to listing appointment and call her back at 7:30 tonight when I go home and go, oh crap, I need to call Mariah. I'd still remember it. But that's why I'm trying to just give you guys the line to say, don't be so worried about what you're going to say to that person because you're already probably nervous. You're already probably it doesn't make sense. Your mind's not exactly receptive to just storing information. For me, I'm very casual, exactly how I'm talking to them right now, minus a crowd of people, right? It's fairly casual. So is there anything else you love about your current home or any other home you've lived in that would recreate in your new home? What would that be?
I mean, both of our parents have gas stoves.
Mhm.
I like those
Right.
a lot.
You went from a gas stove, space for
Yeah.
puppy. Yeah, I went from a gas stove to a stovetop and it's awful.
Yeah.
Just curious, with the house you guys are living in now, is it a condo? Is it a townhouse? What kind of house is it?
It's an apartment.
What do you not like about that house? You ever had?
Not super big.
Mhm.
There's not, I mean, they have spots for you that you can take your puppy, but, or your dog, but there's not really a spot that's
Like a yard or anything?
right, you can't just go chill.
Right.
It has, one of us have to be there.
Take him out. Yeah, so just open the back door and let him go loose. Look at
Right.
that. Well, cool. Yeah, some of these questions too much. We'll figure it out. All right, preferred location. So I'm going to change this. An easy thing that I used to say in my presentation is a simple way I like to ask where someone wants to be is I like to ask you, what's the furthest north you'd be willing to go and the furthest south? You start wide and work your way in. So they say, so I'll ask you the question, what's the furthest north and then the furthest south you guys are willing to go?
American Fork
American Fork. Okay.
and Spanish Fork,
Okay. So just Utah County only.
pretty much.
Perfect. How easy is that to remember? Because now when I go put together their listing alert in a minute, all I have to do is just select Utah County and maybe exclude 3 or 4 cities at the most, right? Awesome. And then obviously other questions, get to know your buyer. What do you like to do for fun? Are there any recreational things you like to enjoy or that's important for you could ask in a way is there any recreational hobbies you enjoy that are important to have accessible to your home or by your home?
Yeah.
Gym?
Close by, maybe a walking trailer, running trailer or something.
Yep. Awesome. Sounds good. How many bedrooms and bathrooms do you guys prefer?
At least 2 bedrooms, at least 2 for both.
Okay, so minimum 2.
Yeah,
Perfect. Do you guys care if you have a yard or is that not important to you?
I'd like a yard.
Like a yard?
Mhm.
Awesome. Let's do it. What are you looking for in terms of a garage? Do you need a garage or is it kind of just maybe a wish, but not a requirement?
It'd be nice, but we've been parking outside forever, so it's not It's a big, big thing.
Right, perfect. If there's any other non-negotiables, like up to 5, what would you say?
Never even thought.
Yeah. Well, no, and again, you don't have to press them. It's not like
Right.
you're not interrogating them. You got to make it feel more like it's about them, not just like, I need an answer. So we're going to sit here and say, you know
I
what?
need a
Yes.
finish.
Right. So it's more just a fact find. I'm going to change some of these in hindsight. Again, I just threw it together with what was there before, but we'll move through it. So we're going to talk about the home buying process. So the real estate transaction can be very complex and confusing, and navigating you through every step of the way is my expertise. This is just a basic flow chart on how the real estate transaction works from my side and everything I handle, but I'm going to jump into what's important for you guys to remember. Is that cool?
Yep.
Awesome. So what do I do first? Real estate is complicated. That's where I come in. So at the closing table, my goal really is for you guys to feel that the purchase of your home exceeded all your expectations. So throughout the interaction from search to close, I'll work hard to achieve that goal. Is that fair?
Yeah.
Awesome. So when you choose me as your partner, you're not just getting a trusted, respected agent, you're getting a local expert who is passionate about serving your community and those who call home. Let's get started. I also like to just talk to you about my team. So I got this awesome assistant named Jen. Jen started in the transaction coordination industry about 7 years ago. You can basically, you don't have to read it verbatim, but again, I think the more you guys can leverage the fact that you have a team, but not that you're on a team, that it's your team, like really, because we work for you at the end of the day. Like that's why I'm here. That's why Jen's here, even Ritz and so on and so forth, right? So the more you can not overly brag about it, but let them know how it benefits them. So every step of the way you're going to be taken care of, because not only am I here, but I've got a team of experts behind me. So if there's anything along the way that needs to be taken care of, it's, there's never going to be any delays or whatever, right? So moving on. 5 steps to homeownership. So we're going to touch on these in detail, but just really quick: pre-approval, look at houses, make an offer on a home, offer accepted, and finishing touch. So buying a house can be overwhelming, but we'll guide you in each step. From the day you partner with me and even the day you step foot in your new house, consider your dedicated real estate advisor. So I'm going to update some of the verbiage, whatever you need. I have the resources and expertise to guide your decisions throughout your transaction. So step 1, so getting pre-approved prior to looking at houses is crucial. So unless you've got $500,000 cash, which I know I don't have, right? So I'm not literally reading it verbatim. This is for my presentation. So I've pretty much memorized it to the point where I just paraphrase, right? So I know I don't have $500,000 cash, but knowing your numbers up front is a necessity for 2 reasons. Because number 1, I don't want to have you guys end up house poor and end up shopping for houses you can't afford, even if it's like, I love this house, but your payment's going to be $3,500 a month, and that's not what works for you. I'd like you to know that up front. But it's also a major advantage, and really in this case, a requirement when making an offer on a home, because a seller is going to want to know that whoever's coming through their house can actually purchase it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Right. So ensuring the lender is crystal clear in communication, truly earning your business, and answers all your questions. So just like an agent, the lender plays the second biggest role in the transaction. The fact that I could go through this whole process, educate you, get you ready to buy a home, find you the perfect home, write it up, get you to the very end. And if the lender drops the ball, then you guys are the ones who don't get the home, right? Because they're the ones getting you the money for the property, right? So finding out about different loan programs can save you time and money. So examples, you guys have probably heard this before. There's like first-time buyer programs, but I'm going to break them down a little bit further. So there's actually 0 down loans, low down payment programs, so like 3 to 5% down for first-time buyers or people repurchasing a home. And there's also different loan programs. So there's FHA, VA, and conventional, right? So FHA is like and I usually explain this. If you guys don't know it, don't say it. You can just talk about them, and you can say, if they have a specific question about it, like, great, yeah, we'll make sure the lender goes through each program with you to make sure you know which one's best for you. Did I really answer their question? No, but I basically did, right? We're going to get to that, right? So I'll usually, because I know, I'll break down the difference. So most first-time buyers or people with, low credit or high debts are going to use an FHA type of loan. VA is only for veterans, which, are you a veteran? No, right? So no big deal. And then conventional, that's kind of like your bread and butter type of product that most people are going to choose to use because it usually is the best for most, right? We also have an awesome platform called Intralend. So what that does, I'm actually able to submit your guys' information there and get you 3 aggressive quotes from other lenders that are competing to get your business. How's that sound? Awesome. Did I miss something? What is a lender? So I always put these at the bottom too. I like to describe to the buyer what role the other people in the process play, right? So not just me. So lender, they're the person approving you for a mortgage, also known as probably loan officer, mortgage broker. You've probably heard that before, right? Awesome. Look at houses. So congrats, your home search has started. I'll be in contact with you anytime something that meets your needs hits the market. So it's always good to look at a handful of options, and also let me know if your needs change over time, because a lot of people, when they start this process, they go into it wanting that white picket fence home on an acre, next to a nice lake. And then after they get pre-approved and they kind of see the reality of the market, that sometimes becomes a townhome, in Provo kind of thing, right? It can change. So I always like to talk about that, but great agents will have tech savvy tools for you to stay on top of the competition. So what we do is we do a daily alert. So every single morning, I'm actually going to make sure you have a list of properties delivered to your inbox. Save you guys the trouble to have to go on Zillow or Realtor.com and all these other websites to search for houses.
Sweet.
Does that work?
Yeah.
Awesome. And one thing I like to talk about is that your search could take as little as 1 day or as long as 1 year. So it's always good to go at your own pace and don't be afraid to adjust your timeline. Like I know you guys are on a lease for 1 year. The great news is there are ways you can get out of the lease. So what I would recommend you do is you guys have a full year to search, which is awesome. But because of how fast paced the market is, because of interest rates, it's always good to be searching now. So if the right opportunity pops up, we have the option to act on it. But if for some reason you don't find what you're looking for, you have your rental to fall back on. Does that work?
Yeah.
Awesome. And then it's obviously my job to help you understand the pros and cons of timing and how to make any situation work. The way I like to put it is that real estate agents are experts at playing dominoes. And what I mean by that is making things fall into place for you. Does that work? Awesome. So any questions up to this point? Cool. So a lot of it, you're asking them questions, but this part is kind of the education, setting expectation part of it. So making an offer on a home. So we find the house you love. Now comes the serious part. It's time to write up an offer. So this is where I'm going to prove my skills, provide you coaching through this, making an offer for you. And then where the teamwork happens between me, you, and the lender to get you the house, right? So when making an offer, you're basically telling the seller and seller's agent what terms you'd buy the house on. One thing to remember, just because you're writing an offer does not mean you're buying the home. I know a lot of people get nervous about contracts and all that stuff in today's society, but this is just a formal way of talking and negotiating with the seller, letting them know that, hey, we'd like to buy your house on these specific terms. And if you like that, then we'll do it. And if not, no big deal. Make sense? So the goal though, is to get our offer accepted or to get a counter offer, right? And so what that means is we'd either love the seller to accept the offer you guys decide to write on the house. So let's say it's listed at, 400 and you say, we'll pay you 400, we'll close in 30 days. And they're going to say yes. Or we'd like them to counter us, which means they're going to say, you know what, we actually would like you to pay 405 and close in 21 days. And as long as it works for you guys can move forward on the home. And if not, it's no big deal. My job is just get you into the conversation. So you guys have the choice of whether you want to do it or not. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So during this step, we're going to encounter what's called the seller's agent. So they're the agent, just like I told you before. I honestly skipped this on this, so we're going to pretend I didn't. In the situation or slide talking about the buyer's agent, it talks about what we do. So we're like a legal fiduciary, whatever, right? So a seller's agent, so just like me, they're hired to represent the seller, and really their job is to protect and make the seller, or sometimes the builder, if it's new construction, as much money as possible. So the reason I like to talk about this is because there's going to be times where you may go to an open house without me or stop by a builder, and they're going to try to encourage you to write the offer with them instead of me. Because they're hired to make them as much money as possible, what do you think they're going to try to do?
Help other sellers.
Right. Exactly. So I was trying to tie that back to that's why I put that there on purpose, is to plant that seed. So later on, if they go to an open house and an agent tries to basically swoop them, or they go to a builder without me, they're going in knowing they need to bring me up to save them money and protect them, because that's honestly the truth, especially in today's market where things are about to get a lot harder. What do you think most Sharky agents are going to try doing? Stealing clients, getting a deal wherever they can, getting paid, right? So I always like to explain that to my clients, just to kind of plant that seed again and make sure that if they are going out and about without me, that I don't have to worry, number one, about them not being loyal clients, but also number two, explaining what detriment they're going to put themselves in if they choose to be unrepresented or choose to work with someone who's representing the other side, right? Does it make sense? So offer accepted. So your offer pulled through, and as a team, we're able to secure the house. Now what? So we're now under contract. So when we go under contract, this is what I was talking about earlier, the 4 steps you guys have to kind of be aware of when we're going through the buying process. We're going to get what's called a seller's disclosure. So the first deadline of the contract to buy the house, we're going to get a document from the seller that details everything they know about the home and make sure it's to your liking. We're usually going to get that within 3 to 10 days of going under contract. Then we're going to make sure you guys get an inspection. So that's during your due diligence period, where we're going to have an inspector go through the house and make sure everything is kosher. Let you know any issues the house has. That way, if you guys have any concerns, we can either get them handled or have the chance to cancel. And that's going to happen within 5 to 14 days of going under contract, right? Finance and appraisal. So during this deadline, we're going to have the value assessed by what's called an appraiser. And then the loan officer that we get you with is going to finalize all your financial details last minute. Make sure you guys know the final down payment, interest rate, closing costs, all that good stuff, right? That's usually going to happen within 2 to 4 weeks or so going under contract. And then settlement and closing. So this deadline, we meet at a title company. We're going to get you guys signed up with all the papers to get you the house. And then shortly thereafter, you'll get the keys. That's going to happen on average within 30 to 45 days. And I usually tell them like my transactions are usually taking around 21 to 30 days. So once we get you the perfect house, usually it's a 3 to 4 week turnaround. How's it sound?
Sounds great.
Awesome. And I just like to touch on who's involved again. So a title company. So I mentioned we're going to go settle and close. So at that point, we're going to meet what's called a title company. So they're a neutral third party who closes out the transaction, ensures all documents are properly completed and all money sent to the right people, right? We have an appraiser. So they're actually hired by the lender to establish the value of the house for the bank or the lender. So you guys know what you're getting is what it's worth, right? And then an inspector, that's who you guys hire, which I have some recommendations for. And their job is to go basically tell you how bad the house is. So that way you guys know before you move in what issues to expect. So that way you're protected from every step of the way, right? Awesome. Finishing touches. So once we get this all wrapped up, I always like to make a joke. Congratulations, you now own a home. You're free to start creating memories, enjoying meals, gatherings, and the sweet old American dream. So kind of how this goes from here is that I'm going to keep in touch always, right? Hopefully be considered a close friend because my whole goal here is not just to sell you a house, but to actually create a meaningful relationship with you and make sure that, this was a great experience for you. I want to provide you valuable information, resources, connections, whenever you need it. In addition to that, this is for mine. You guys can edit it, but I always like to touch on client events. So that's something big I do. I do like 7 a year. So I'll also throw client events just to spoil my clients, just saying. So in the future, you guys are going to hear from me a lot more, but also get a lot of benefits from being my client long-term. Searching safely. So this is where you guys can start working on getting them set up with the right way to search as well as listing alert. So I usually talk about our app. So with our KW app, it's pretty awesome. You can search real estate all over US and Canada, but specifically for what we're doing now, this is a super easy way for you guys to pop on. It's way better than, Zillow, Realtor.com and so on. You guys can give them the whole spiel. Talk about guide, neighborhoods, collections, different parts of the app. And then you can also use Utah Real Estate as your search tool. I'll be dead honest with you guys. I typically will just set them up on a listing alert and I'll give them my app for them to do their own creative searching. But I don't push it incredibly hard because by the time they're done with this, they're going to be my client either way. I'm not using the app as a way to further sell them. It's more just like, here's a valuable tool you can use if you choose to, right? And then I go on and obviously set them up a search from here. So next steps. So this is kind of where you close it out and set expectations on how to move forward. So start following and preparing for the 5 steps of homeownership we discussed. In other words, start getting pre-approved and getting your ducks in a row, right? Sign agency disclosure. We'll go through that in just a second. And then let's get after it. So I always like to touch on kind of where the market's at right now. So the current state of the market, interest rates are increasing and both the price of homes and the cost of rent is increasing. Average appreciation in the last 3 years has been at least 8% or more. My best advice to you is don't try to outsave inflation and appreciation. Let's get you in the driver's seat, right? Worst case scenario, you're going to make 6% on your house year over year versus being subjected to, like you guys said, you hate paying rent. Probably only going to get higher, unfortunately, right? So at this point, moving on, this is where I pull out the buyer broker. This is the script we put together, how to get the buyer broker signed every time. Because I know, like I mentioned earlier in the presentation, most people are very scared of contracts. Like that word alone is like, ugh, right? So I'm super excited to work with you. Normally at the end of the slide too, you guys could have a closing statement, something along the lines of like, cool, does it sound like we can work together? I'd love the chance to earn your business. And if they say yes, perfect. Jump right into this. Obviously you'll memorize this. So it's not something you're going to pull out and read to them, right? So I'm so excited to work with you guys. There's just one more thing. So in the state of Utah, they require me to get your authorization to represent you. So this is a state approved form that kind of explains a couple things, what I do, how I get paid, all that good stuff. So here it simply says, and then you just go through the document with them along the way, get their initials and signatures. And yeah, again, the way I set up my buyer brokers, you guys can set it up differently if you choose to. I don't charge my clients commission. I negotiate that. So even if it's a $1,500 commission or it's 2%, 1%, 3%, it doesn't matter. If I can't earn my paycheck, I'm not going to pass the remainder on to them. That's just how I do things. And that's been what's worked for me. If you guys have it set up for, so it's a 3% no matter what or whatever, that's up to you. But again, that's where I just kind of explain that to my clients, like all this allows me to do is represent you. It's not to, force you to do anything or have to pay me. But again, if you guys set yours up differently, that's up to you. And you can explain that from there. If you do set it up, so there's a certain amount of commission or percentage or flat dollar fee or whatever, you will have to obviously explain to them in the event that we find a house and the seller is not willing to pay this. This is something that, will be passed along to you. That's why I don't personally do it, just because in my opinion, I think we're worth it. And I think that there is a time and place where you could charge a commission to a buyer. But I also know that with how the market's been the last 3 years, it's already been hard enough for them to get into houses. I never wanted to be the one extra reason they couldn't. Does that make sense? So again, go through, just need to get the initial and date here, get the, or again, get the initials and signature and wrap it up. Any questions? Cool. Have you guys taken time? I know some of you guys haven't seen this yet. Have you taken time to personalize this or get it off of Canva? Okay, no worries. So what we're going to do, I'm going to tweak a couple of the, after going through with you guys, I'm going to tweak some of the verbiage in there. But what I'd say we do is break off into groups of 2 and just run through it with each other. It doesn't have to be as long and drawn out. Pretty soon we'll be doing soon though is doing almost like a test out on this, where throughout the process with your role-playing partner, they'll give you objections, things like, why are interest rates super high right now? Or is now not a good time to buy? And so on and so forth, because those are really things that come up in these types of situations that I want to know you guys are skilled enough to handle and have the right, ammo to overcome those type of things. That being said, lessons learned. Have you guys you've done a couple buyer presentations. So what was different? Obviously, did you use this every time or use a different one?
Yeah, I use this one.
Okay, you're not a
But it
good.
was like before you make some changes.
Yeah. So what did you guys see there that's different than maybe buyer presentations you've done in the past? If you have.
This one seemed definitely more personalized,
Mhm.
right? Rather than just trying to sell yourself. You're actually just trying to figure out what they want.
Yeah. Yeah, I like, I don't know, I'm more of a show me, don't tell me kind of person. And I know that a lot of people are that way too, where they really, if you think about it, what's the reason they're hiring an agent in the first place?
They don't know what to do.
Right. So what does that put you in the driver's seat for?
It kind of puts you in command to be the agent.
Yeah, and be an educator, be the person they can rely on for solid advice. I think if you overly take the sales approach, again, this is all of it. I hate that word because it's so interchangeable. Like all of this is sales at the end of the day, right? It's like getting people to work with you is at the end of the day, sales. It's like sales and closing at the end of the day, right? But generally speaking, I think if you come from a place of trying to be
Friendship and mentorship.
yes, exactly. More of like, let me take you under my wing and show you the right way of doing this for your benefit, not for mine. People are going to want to work with you by default. Most time when I get done with this, like a lot of people are like, that's a lot more information than I thought I was going to get. Like, I didn't realize there was that much that went into it, but also like, I finally know what to do. Like, I'm not confused. Like, it really does give them the baby steps on what to expect, right? So that being said, we'll wrap this up real quick and then we'll break off into groups and do some role play. It's 11:17. We'll have probably 20 or so minutes. Current mission. So this is kind of your guys' what should I be doing now? I'm going to just recap this every week. Again, if you haven't already, database, get it to a minimum of 200 people as soon as possible. Your database, like we talked about, is your data bank. This is ultimately, so I won't even say it. Cash, I'll use 2 examples that I know are working. So Cash, how has it been going for you since you started really pushing with your database and making your contacts?
Really good. Yeah, super busy.
That's a good thing. What happened yesterday, Paige, when you made calls to your database on your first call?
I got to.
Off 1 call. So that's what I'm saying. It doesn't have to be hard. You just have to set it up, get the names in there and just show up from service and friendliness and just make the calls. And I'm telling you, stuff will just show up just based on you taking that action. So again, get to a minimum of 200 contacts as soon as possible. Lead generation, your very simple format of knowing what to do day to day is your daily 10-4. Again, 10 contacts, 10 people added to your database, 10 handwritten notes, and then sometime during the week, check out 10 properties, right? 5 in person, 5 CMAs is the way to go. So then you get an idea of what they're looking like in person, but you can also practice your skill set of valuing properties. Goal setting. So again, it's always good to have your yearly goal mapped out because you're never going to hit a target you don't know, right? Like it's impossible to hit a goal that's not there. And also it aligns you to know what you should be doing day by day, week by week, month by month to actually make this a reality versus just hoping by chance you're going to look up at the end of the year and have made your income goal or supported your family or whatever, your big why is. So again, GPS 411, goals, priorities, and strategies set, monthly, weekly, and daily plan set. The great thing with 90% of what I ask you guys to do is it's a one and done type of situation, right? If you write a GPS up, if you get your database filled with the contacts and everything else, you don't have, you should continually work to improve them, but it's kind of like you're done. You just, go to work every day, do your lead generation, and before long, you'll be busy making money, helping people out. And then we're going to talk about group coaching requirements. So we're going to do group coaching this week. We still can. There's only maybe like 2 people that qualify currently. But these are the requirements for group coaching. Just to recap what group coaching is. So once you get done with Ignite and your case studies and so on, again, the requirements, Ignite graduated, launch completed, Pro U videos done, case studies completed. Again, your onboarding requirements, that will give you access to group coaching, which is where we're going to sit down in this room in a group setting. I'll pull up our 411s, which is your weekly plan and monthly plan, and report back on the last 7 days and how business went, recommit to an action plan for the next 7 days. And then at the very end, we'll mastermind on how we can get business in the next 7 days for each and every one of you. So it's very much like a planning session at the very least, right? Accountability to the max. So again, also database uploaded, 411 filled out. That's how I'm going to coach you guys, is the 411. For future reference, the only thing I'm really going to hold you guys accountable to, I know there's tons of resources. It gets overwhelming, it gets confusing. It does for me too, because there's like 50 of you and there's no app, you know what I mean? I can keep up with all that half the time. So the things that I will hold you accountable to in the future when we meet, whether it be a one-on-one or a group coaching setting, is that your pipeline on your scorecard has to be filled out. I just need to know who you're working with, who's potentially going to turn into business soon, and then your 411, because ultimately I know if you're at least planning out your week, keeping track of who you're talking to, that's important. Business is going to show up. The rest of the skills I'll teach you in our trainings, and then hold you accountable to an action plan to make it happen. But that's all I got for you guys. Any questions? Last slide. How's it going? Who is doing lead generation daily at this point? Tyler? Who has done it at least 3 times? I guess it's Thursday, but in a week period, 7-day period, who's done it at least 3 times?
I mean, I've started putting it together.
Perfect. Kate, awesome. Kason, awesome. Cash, I know you have, I talked to you yesterday. Lyric, have you been doing your lead generation semi-consistently?
No, I haven't. I've been slacking because I've been taking care of this listing, which isn't an excuse, but I need to dedicate time better.
Awesome. Well, let me know how I can help. What would it take for you guys to do it daily? How can we make it simpler, more realistic for you to do that?
Honestly, I feel like I'm gonna run out of people.
Okay.
So I'm like spacing it out.
What are 1 or 2 ways that you could add people to your database that have nothing to do with SOI or calling?
I mean, you literally said just go to Yellow Pages and throw people in.
If you had to, right? That's not the best way.
People that call on my for sale sign, I just add them to my database when they call me.
Yeah, that's one. Open houses. If you do 1 to 2 open houses a week and you do them on, like, again, sometimes you get 1 person,
Right.
other times you get 30 people. It's kind of a gamble. It's definitely worth doing though. It's worth the time. So with open houses, what are 3 ways that you could get contacts from an open house?
Sign-in sheet.
Sign-in sheet. So people in the door,
Door knocking.
door knocking in the neighborhood. How else? Calling in the neighborhood, right? So off of those 3 methods alone, if you picked 50 to 100 doors or houses surrounding, you could probably easily, and not even counting people coming in the door, every open house, you could walk away with at least 10 people plus in your database. If you did 1 a week, that's 40 a month. You know, every 5 weeks, it's 200 extra people, right? So that goes back to the how can I, right? You got to have that mentality. Don't cap yourself, because ultimately the best thing you could do is come up to me and say, I have nobody to call because I've called everybody in my database 10 times now. Guess what I can do with you? Make a plan to get more, right? Let's run a Facebook ad. Let's get you a list of geo leads. Let's start working on the other things that can get you more business in addition to what you've been doing. But until you get there, then it's going to be 6 months of spinning your wheels with 50 people you maybe talked to, you know, half-heartedly, right? So that's what I just want to make sure we avoid. So we have launch, I realize that we had to reschedule for today. So there is a chance we won't have time to role play. If that's the case, I would say we break off into maybe grab an accountability partner and schedule another time to run through the buyer presentation. I will update it. Any updates I make will automatically be rolled out to the Canva. So you guys might have to just pop back in there and re-download it, but I'll update a couple things that I have seen. Any feedback from the buyer presentation though?
I like the colors versus the sad black that we had.
Mhm.
And I felt like it was more like an assignment before. I didn't like how it was structured. It was like info.
Mhm.
Right now it's like tackling the main points. And I need to learn how to do it with the goals. So
Yeah.
I can edit it because I usually just stay on the back and then my kids destroy it.
So, I mean, that's a great thing though. Although I will give you guys the basic, again, it's like, goes back to that triangle I showed you where it's like models and then creativity. Once you nail the right way of doing it, is it wrong to say Mariah could go in there, maybe add a slide for something she wants to talk about, or change a question or two, or change even like the order or format? No, right? I just want to know you guys at least have the basic tools in your toolkit. You can use them however you'd like. It's just more so we need to have a consistent way of doing it as a group. So when we train and do role play, we're all going off of a very similar way of doing it. So we can all get better together versus Kate having his own, Carlos having his own, Tyler having his own. So it's like, how can I, as a coach, know what each one of those guys are saying in their presentations, but also hold you accountable to proper scripting and everything else. So what I'll do, it's only going to get better as time goes on. I'll update a couple of things and tweak them. Again, if there are certain things you want taken out, text me. Hey, is this crucial to have in here or you want to add? Text me. I'm happy to give you my feedback and advice.
My question would be, if there's any way like to put about like how the commission breaks, because I know that we have a design that it kind of makes it like a pie, because some people ask that, and it would be nice maybe to have a nice way to put it. I had my in-laws tell me the way that they say it, but to me it's doesn't, I don't know, I don't like it. The way that they explain it is that, you know, this is to feed my family. We like to take money from feeding my family. And I'm like, I don't want to guilt trip my clients.
Right.
Like, want to take my kids' bread, you know.
Wait, so they said that like you getting paid affects them?
Yes, well, I always tell them that it usually comes from the seller, especially with buyers, but maybe for like listing, you know, but even for buyers, I explain that to them because I know you're gonna make such a lot of money. Well, and then, but it would be nice maybe to have your approach, and again, we need to make it our own, because I even deleted pages from the previous one, and I like to put pictures and visuals too.
The thing that I didn't love about the other one, it was really clean, but I just didn't love the overemphasis on like selling KW and everything else, because your clients are, again, listen to this quote, your clients are loyal to the service you provide, not you, right? Not your company, not anything else. So again, it has to be about them and what you provide them, nothing else. It doesn't need to be about KW, it doesn't need to be even be about me, it doesn't even really need to be about you, because if you just put yourself in that seat of service and giving them the information, resources you know they're not going to get elsewhere, what does that automatically get you? Or give them value, right? Like they're gonna walk away better. Good.
I just wanted to mention that when I think it was only one presentation, the only one that I had to explain about the commission, because they brought it up. They thought I was making 6%, I don't know how. And I explained to them, so in the end, the commission was 2%. And they actually said, no, we want to pay the extra percentage. So they brought it up. I
Right.
didn't even bring it because they said, you know what, I'm working here for you. But had I not maybe explained that, they would have thought that I was making 6%.
Making a ton.
And they're like, you're being nice, we like you, but you're getting your check. And in reality, it was 2% that I got.
Right. In my mind, there's a way you could, because you don't want to overly bring it up out of the blue. And then if someone has no reference, they're going to go, wait, what?
Yeah, I
And
went
you
until
may-
they asked me, but I want to have it just in case.
In my mind, that's where again, I went off the approach of, I'm never going to lock them into a certain percentage, because I'm going to pitch it. How it really is that I negotiate my commission. If the seller happens to be offering an amount that I'm acceptable with, or I'm accepting of, great, I don't have to negotiate. But if they're not, that's where I step in. It sets 2 expectations, lets them know that I'm working for my paycheck. It's not coming from them. And number 2, in the event that there is a property offering a $1,500 commission, and I'm like, no way in hell, I'm going to take that. Then I know that I've already set the expectation with them that I'm going to have to negotiate. What does that mean? That means with your offer I submit, I'm going to have to ask the seller to increase what they're paying me, right? So I'm handling 2, near future and potential obstacles down the road. But yeah, I think a lot of my clients, even the ones that know how much I'm getting paid, they don't get like facetious about it, because they see what I do for them and they're like, oh, all day long. You know what I mean? Like I had a client recently that I had a discounted listing for because she had just bought the house from me 6 months ago. It appreciated a little bit, but if I would have charged her full 6%, she would have lost money. And going back to the conversation about people going into builders without you, that happened to me. She went and got emotional and drove by a beautiful house that she saw, and guess who locked her down? The builder. And so she's like, I need to sell my house. I have 30 days to come up with a deposit for the builder, and I lose $5,000 to put down. I'm like, well, alrighty, let's do it, But the whole time, even yesterday at the closing, she's like, I feel so bad. Like, I need to pay you back. Like, you discounted for me. You shouldn't have. And I'm like this literally like 6 months ago, sold your $700,000 house, sold you another one, sold your ex another. Does it make sense? Like, it all works. There's plenty of pie to go around. I'm not worried about it. But in other circumstances, yeah, you don't want to put yourself in a situation where they're questioning your value before you even have a chance to prove it. And also, I wouldn't really bring it up. The only way I'd address that is like, the seller is going to pay me and I'll negotiate my paycheck, so you don't have to worry about it. So it's not even on their mind. They're just focused on finding the perfect house, and I'll take care of the rest, kind of, you know what I mean? So again, take time to personalize that. I'm gonna tweak the questionnaire. What I'll probably do is make it very basic, like 5 to 10 questions max, not super in-depth. Like again, general the better, because then it gives them time to talk and I'm just listening, taking notes versus like, I don't even like what are 5 things in your current home? It depends. If it's a first-time buyer, then I'm like,
Yeah, like
irrelevant.
the appliances question, I don't even ask it, but I hope
Yeah.
it's just you get a house, it's a wish. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Not now, but.
Right, yeah, like
the
6
wish
months
is
ago.
to get a house.
6 months ago, I want like a kitchen island with a gas stove and double oven, and I'm like, yeah,
Just get you a house.
I'll just let the market handle that. I'm not even gonna jump into it. Cool, guys. Well, if there's something I can do for you this week, I see Dave just jumped on. We're gonna go into launch, guys. So if you want to stay for that, you're welcome to. We're gonna talk about the 30, 60, 90. But otherwise, if you guys need anything this week, let me know.
I had a question real quick.
What's up?
How, when you're working with a for sale by owner, how much, and you represent the other party, how much do, like, if they ask you questions and they're like, well, talk to me about this, and like, they're wanting to talk about everything, how much can you actually talk with them? Does that make sense?
Yeah. If it's in relation to how to navigate a transaction and it's coming from a place of like putting a deal together, I don't know, it's kind of a gray area because technically speaking, in Utah's law, if you're giving advice as an agent, they need to have you like you need to have them as your client. Like you can't just openly give advice.
Yeah.
But I don't know, it depends. What's the specific situation? Can you give me an example?
Yeah, they're asking because they don't understand any part of like, they just don't understand the REPC in general. Like, they don't understand what additional earnest money means and why that's not filled out, and they don't understand why. Hang on, let me pull up the other question here that they asked. They don't understand why we want to have a home warranty because everything's done. So, like, they're just specific questions about the REPC itself. And I'm like, I mean, I can tell you, but I don't represent you. So, like, what do I do?
You can explain what it means from a contractual standpoint, but you can't give them advice on how it would affect them. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
So you can explain to them, buyers typically ask for a home warranty. So in the event appliances or any other major issues happen in the first year, they're covered. So that's general. That doesn't really entail the seller. It's just like they're just asking for the money to cover it. And then for like the additional earnest money deposit, you can just say, those are just, so on Utah's real estate purchase contract, they give you multiple different ways of structuring it. There are going to be some line items that are blank because we're not including them in our offer. Those are only usable or specific and, specific situations. It's not applicable to our offer or terms. Just like if you said, I'm doing due diligence, I'm not doing due diligence, just because it's there. Does it make sense? Like it's conditional, really is what I'm trying to say.
So I can't tell them, like, I can't essentially give them advice, but I can essentially help them understand.
So you wouldn't tell them, you wouldn't tell them, well, buyers do additional earnest money to protect the seller. So if they cancel, then the seller gets paid. Because what are you then going to do? Put them in a position where they're going to ask for that. But if you said, those are just conditional terms that are optional for a buyer to include in their offer, then it's not like you're specifically saying, hey, this is a benefit to the buyer or the seller. You're just saying it's conditional. And in this case, we're not using that clause or that line item.
Got it. Okay, cool. Thanks.
No problem. Hopefully that helps. I know it's a little tricky, but I've been there. I have been there. Okay. So what I'm going to go through with you guys real quick is, for those of you who haven't gone to launch session 1, we're just going to talk really quick about a basic overview of resources, requirements, your big why, as well as our 30, 60, 90. So this is kind of like your guys' action plan, right? Initial launch is trying to get you guys' feet wet and everything. So again, your resource requirements and your big why. So if you have your laptop, make sure it's out, ready to go. So your resources. I know this has been a big question for a lot of you guys on where to actually find everything. So I want to make sure you guys have it all laid out and it's easy to find in the future. So your 30, 60, 90, I will show you the copy we're about to roll out. It is not rolled out yet. And so expect that shortly. However, your scorecard does have a copy of it right now. We will also be putting a copy in paper. So for those of you who like to work off of paper and not a digital, that's fine. I just want to know where you're at. So if I can check in with Casey and say, hey, how far are you into that? Did you complete, week 3's activities? He can say, yes, I did, or I wasn't able to get this done or whatever, right? So that being said, your 30, 60, 90, that's your one-stop shop that answers what do I do next? There's an additional tab with this or document that will come out with this called core competencies. Those work hand in hand. Core competencies are basically a list of what you should know before you leave the program. The 30, 60, 90 is when you're taking action on what specific measures. So when should I have my case studies done by? When should I have my pro youth videos done by? When should I send my announcement letters? What, does it make sense? When should I set up my Breville pass? Talk to Molly about this or Riley about this and so on. So Academy Westfield website. So we're updating it. Again, there's so much resources to update, so many resources to update. But anyways, there will be a digital copy of the 30, 60, 90 for you guys on the website here in the near future. There's also links to get to Pro U, which is also called Transcend University. Links to your case studies. So not only the documents, but also the walkthroughs and how to get them done. Pro team calendar. So this is your week by week guide on what's happening with the team. If you're full-time agent, it also gives you time blocks for lead generation and other activities. Checklists. So this is for transactions. So how to walk through a buyer transaction, how to walk through a seller transaction. Recorded trainings. So we have a YouTube channel where we record 90% of what we do. So the great news is you're never limited to waiting for the next class half of the time. You can easily just pop on and obviously look over the video, get caught up ahead of time. Scripts, marketing essentials, and then Trello. This is, doesn't look like we finished this slide, but Trello is your digital library, which I've showed some of you guys. This has access to any documents, scripts, calendars, like anything that's on the team. This is just where we store it, like a Google Drive, but a lot easier to find because you just search in the top right corner for anything you're looking for. I have an open house coming up. You search open house, all the resources we have in open house. I want to learn how to learn scripts better. There's a video on how to role play scripts like a pro. Oh, I need a script for Facebook messages, for sell by owners, geo leads, whatever. It's all there, right? So again, we're just trying to give you guys tools for everything. So you're never limited in what you could do moving forward. So what should I be working on? So if you're not sure what you should be working on, refer to your 30, 60, 90. Again, it's a bird's eye view of what you will accomplish as a new real estate agent during your first 30, 60, and 90 days. So I'm going to quickly show you guys the rough draft we put together. It's going to look a heck of a lot prettier when you guys get it, but I'm just going to show you what that actually looks like. So some of you have been on the team longer than a week or 3 weeks or whatever, it doesn't matter. Use this as a checklist to just catch yourself up on where you should be, and any unchecked boxes, that's your target. In addition to your daily 10-4, so in other words, until your lead generation's done, then work on these things, but work on that first always. So a new agent joins our team. We're going to talk to them about time blocking their daily 10-4, getting the team calendar set up, texting Dean, meeting me and Ritz, command, again, all the getting your tool set up, getting your toolkit, whatever. Talk about what classes they should be going to, and then start preparing your announcement letter and so on. So as it progresses, you'll see that it actually becomes less and less. There's a reason for this, because as you get through the program, you shouldn't be in classes every day, all day, right? This is just like, we throw you into the water, we teach you how to swim, and then you just keep on swimming. That's kind of how you want to think about it, right? So as the weeks progress, it gets more specific on activities to get business, less specific on education, right? Because that's the point. You're now taking action. So, like for example, week 3, deadline for completing Pro U courses. Week 4, complete your case studies. Make sure by the 4th week you have set out or send out your announcement letters. You've made a social media announcement post. You have completed your goals and have a 411 set up for the following months. You have a good action plan. Host your first open house. Build your listing presentation. Build your buyer presentation, and so on and so forth. So as you continue down this list, again, by week like 12, there's like 4 things. It's not much, because again, like even Cash mentioned, he's getting busy. That's what I want to hear. You guys are getting to the point where after a certain period of weeks, you're taking action and it's paying off, right? So this will be your 30, 60, 90. Again, we'll roll it out soon. And then I just want to quickly show you guys the core competencies as well. If it'll load, let's see. So I hate this thing. No, so I don't. Okay, whatever, I'll come back to it. All right, here we go. Okay, so core competencies. So these are a list of things you guys should know or have completed before you leave the program. So for example, was telling you guys about objections. So role played the buyer presentation with the team and efficiently handled these objections. I'm not ready to buy right now. Is now a bad time to buy a home? Is the market going to crash? Rates are too high, etc. Or with your listing presentation, I'd like to wait to sell. I'd like to take some more time to think about it before I list with you. I don't want to reduce the price of my home, or Homey or whatever other company is willing to list my house for less than you. Why are you charging X amount of commission, right? You need to know how to handle these type of things. So again, it's just a quick action guide on what you should be working on at any given time. And then make sure your schedule is aligned with the right trainings, meetings, and lead generation activities. Again, lead generation, if you told me I'm never going to a class again, but every single day I commit to you, I'm going to have my 10-4 done, I wouldn't worry about you, because pretty soon you're going to be out of the program and making money. And that's all that matters, right? Is helping people getting through this process. What should be on my schedule each week? So every morning, as you guys have seen, we do a huddle at 8:45 a.m. This is our, for lack of a better word, kick in the butt to get the day started, get our mind on a positive note. 4 sessions of launch. So these are for new students. Once you get through launch, you don't have to do it again. Same with Pro U videos, same with case studies. It's a one and done type of scenario. As well as Ignite. We'll do group lead generation Mondays and Wednesdays, 11:30 to 12:45. So we'll do 15 to 20 minutes of script practice and then an hour of phone calls as a group. So if you guys are nervous about making your calls, you don't know what to say, you need support, or you just want to come be held accountable and work with the group, this is your time to do it. We have Transaction Tuesdays, no longer on Thursdays anymore. That'll be via Zoom. And then Coach's Corner, this is once a week Q&A. So anybody can jump on and like Cash just asked, hey, I had a FISBO ask me a question about a contract. What should I do? You can just hop on and learn just by default being on the call. We have KWT meeting weekly on Tuesday, and then Pro Team meeting, which from now on will be our fundamental training once a week for about an hour to an hour and a half. And this is an opportunity for you guys to learn something specific to your business that's actionable. Also, I didn't include this on here because I know not all of you will go, but we also have the Shift series, which I think you definitely should go to. Seats are limited, so if you plan on doing that, let me know and we'll have you sign up. We're going to quickly talk about a life by design versus a life by default. So I've had a lot of conversations. Kaylee and I chatted yesterday. I've talked with Tyler, I've talked with Tyler and Paige, talked with you, Carlos, all of you guys in the case about the importance of having a clear direction and really setting your expectation for yourself on where you're going versus just showing up here and hoping that one day something will happen, right? So again, it's life by design versus life by default. What are the symptoms of a life by default? So one, not knowing where you want to be 5 years from now. So well-designed versus undesigned. Passively accepting things the way they are versus making them the way you want them or need them to be. And allowing limiting beliefs to control your actions. The indispensable first step to getting things you want out of life is this: decide what you want, right? Decision is a powerful tool. If you're not deciding where you're going, life is going to happen, I guess, for you. Okay, remove limiting beliefs. So how many of you guys are familiar with what a limiting belief is? All right. Yeah. Casey, you know what a limiting belief is?
Is it when you, I guess, limit what you believe in, like you're like, oh, I can only make this much, and because you think that way, that's only as far as you'll go.
Yep.
They stop you from taking action.
Yep.
Because you're afraid that you're going to fail.
Yeah. I feel like a big one with people is imposter syndrome. Like, I don't belong here. I'm too young for this. I'm not smart enough. I'm not confident enough. I'm not this, I'm not that, I'm not the other, right? So that's one example. So we'll give you some examples. So instead of but, let's use and. So, or, another way of saying that is instead of or, use and. So I can either, be successful or have time with my family, because apparently only workaholics can be successful, or I can only, whatever, you get the idea, right? So, but tends to negate what you said before. Is that your intent? So instead of saying try, I don't even like this one, intend. If I told you there's somebody who says, you know what, I'm going to become the best real estate agent in Keller Williams, versus someone that says, I'm going to attempt to become, who do you think is going to do it or more likely to do it? Yeah, I'm going to, or I will, versus I'm going to attempt. I'm going to attempt to go through police academy. I'm going to attempt to become a teacher. I'm going to attempt to go to school, right? Like, that's just not going to get you anywhere. Obviously, I can't versus I can. So you can, if you choose, you can. I need versus I choose, so on and so forth. So again, your words are powerful. And so it's very important that you check the way you talk to yourself, about yourself, and to others, because everywhere you go, there you are, right? If you're all messed up internally, everything externally is going to be a reflection of that. So, plant some positive seeds in your mind. Quick question. Why did you become an agent? Let's start with you, Kaylee.
I knew a friend that was in the business and I liked how tight it was to like self-grow and like really putting yourself out of your comfort zone, and it's a lot of freedom and it's up to you, basically.
Love it. Sam?
I've been in real estate investing and I wanted to get in on the agent side and understand how that works and be able to broker my own deals and my investors' deals.
Love it. Tyler?
Just being able to create that own, well, not having to rely on someone else, like a boss or someone, and just in the future being able to get properties and have a bunch of other opportunities from this.
Love it. Paige? Love it. All right.
My in-laws convinced me. I work in customer service and they thought I would do really well. And I just love talking to people and helping people.
Love it.
And that's it.
Jason?
Yeah, like what they were saying too, I like to be my own boss. Freedom, my like free time. I like to have lots of free time to do lots of different things.
Mm-hmm.
We like to travel, and then building up like a passive income is kind of what I really want to go towards. So that we don't need to work, we just go do whatever we want.
Yep.
I can spend time with my family, with my kids. But becoming a like real estate agent, I kind of want to help other people because I know if they know nothing about real estate, it can be scary. And so I kind of want to help like first home buyers,
Yep.
trying to figure out their situation and stuff.
So life by design is one way to phrase that, right? So choosing, right? And then I love that too, because ultimately in this role, there is an opportunity for you to make a lot of money and help a lot of people, but really the best part about it is the helping people aspect, because if you take someone who has no real estate knowledge, or the first person in their family who's ever bought a property, they have no reference whatsoever, and you help them through this process, are you helping them have a better life in the future? I'll give you an example. I have a kid that I went to school with, 18 years old, working at Domino's, was making like 60 to 80K a year, just found a great opportunity, like basically stuck with the pizza business from high school, right? Had no idea, was bad with his money, all this good stuff, right? So I told him, like, listen, you should totally buy a house with me. I'll walk you through how to make this opportunity pay off for you, I promise, right? This was when I was a new agent, had no idea what I was doing. I did, but I didn't, right? Found him a house with a basement apartment, right? Up in West Jordan. It was like $317,000 at the time. He's like, my payment's like $2,000 a month. I don't know what I'm gonna do. I'm like, listen, you're gonna be able to rent the basement for at least 11 to 1,200. You'll be just fine. Guess what? 2 years later, 3 years later now, I guess, he's got over $150,000 in equity. His cost of living in his own home is less than $400 a month, right? How much did that set him up over the last 3 years? A lot, right? So anyways, Cade, what's your reason why?
The whole process just seemed fulfilling to me, working either side of it, just kind of helping people through it. I think that people don't know anything about the process, so I guess just being that hand through it seemed like a big thing for me.
Love it. Carlos.
Just helping out like people, getting like into real estate, and then do a connection with people, meeting people, getting out of their comfort zone, stuff like that.
Love it. Carlos is a general contractor, so in the future, if you guys have clients who need work on houses, he's your guy. Plus his haircut looks super fresh. No problem. Tim?
People are interesting to me. What they do, like what they're interested in. It's really nice to be able to pick up on things that they're interested in, get a bunch of information in a short period of time. Whereas if you were trying to do it on your own and get where they're at, like it would take you just as long as it took them. So it's cool to get everything.
Like association, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And that's another thing too. So both on like a professional side, like people you work around, you pick up on a lot of stuff and you kind of get changes because of that. But also your clients, man. Like you find out a lot about people dealing with this process. Like I always like to joke with my clients that when they become my client, we're going to get married. And then when they buy or sell something, then we get divorced. And it's really sad because I can't talk to them anymore. Like, cause you go from literally almost daily talking to somebody, being in their home, hearing about their personal life, their finances, the way they go about, and then just random stuff like the dynamics of their relationship and their family life. And like, there's some people you get done working with and you're like, wow, I aspire to be just like those people. There's some people you get done working with and you're like, how do they hold it together? I have no idea. Does this make sense? No, totally. Anyways, love you guys for sharing that. Appreciate it. Cool. So what is your big why? So big, obviously, because we're here to get extraordinary results. If you guys wanted to be average or just get your license just to have a cool title, you probably shouldn't be here, right? Why? It's the reason you get up every day and do what you do. So a good quote, I wish Cash was here because I'd probably bring him to tears by saying this, but I'll use the Ed Milet guy as an example. So I'll say two things real quick. First thing so he has a story where he talks about how for the longest time, he was like into weightlifting and everything, but he ate like crap. He had heart issues, just ignored him until one day his doctor pulled him aside and was like, listen, because like, here's the thing, if you want to get someone to take action, you can't just tell them like, oh, you have a heart problem or you're obese or you have this issue, because most of the time that's not going to actually stir them up enough to do anything about it. So his doctor pulled him aside and said, listen, if you keep going at this pace, you're not going to be able to walk your daughter down the aisle. It'll be some other man doing it. How's that feel? What do you think he did?
Changed.
Oh, instantly fired up, right? That just stuck him right in the heart. That's what I'm talking about with the big why. I don't want you to say, oh, I want to help 10 families. You do. That's the numeric version of what you're trying to say. But what is your actual purpose? Cade, I know more than anything, you want to get the hell out of your house and freaking get on your own, right?
Yeah.
How bad does it hurt every day when you go home and you can't do that?
A lot.
A lot, right?
Yeah.
Tyler, I know maybe this isn't the one I'm gonna give you shit though. You want a Rolls Royce one day. How bad does it suck to not be driving that? Right? That's what I'm saying. That's the kind of stuff I want to tie it to. And I don't mean to call you, but I'm just saying personal level, like,
Yeah.
because I have the same type of stuff. Like, everybody has that like itch they can't scratch yet. And that's like what drives them. Find it out and tie it to this. Use that emotional energy, because that's ultimately what's going to push you through it. It's not like there's going to be days, like numerous days, I don't feel like doing this. I'm like, man, how nice would it be to work at the city again with my teenage buddies, working on sprinklers and like swerving around the town in city vehicles, getting paid to do nothing. It'd be great, right? But does that actually fulfill my purpose? Does it get me further ahead? No, right? So ask yourself, when you peer 3 years into the future, what do you see? I always like to ask Carlos this question yesterday. I'll ask all of you guys probably this at least once, like 12 months from now, looking back, what happened, right? Or 3 years in this case. That's the easiest way to pull that stuff out of you, because then it really connects you with because if I ask myself this question, 12 months from now, looking back, you're in the same position you are now. How would you feel? I'd be very pissed off. Like, I'd be plain angry, right? Because I do not want to be where I'm at right now in 12 months. Not that I hate my life right now or anything like that, but I just expect better of myself, right? What do you want to be, or what do you want to be there? So that could be material things, that could be people, whatever, situations, and so on. What materializes in front of you as the epitome of success or of success? So I know one day we're going to see Kaylee in Hollywood. It's going to be awesome, right? It's going to be sweet, right? That's what I'm saying, stuff like that. Like, what amount of money would be exciting for you to make this year? So not just get by. So I think it's all too easy to look at your financial situation and be like, I've got just enough. Like, my bills are paid. I can take myself out to eat occasionally. Like, that's good enough, right? Good enough is not great, right? What is the number that reflects your potential if you were to stretch yourself? So I shared with you guys my goal earlier. That's to be a millionaire by 25. Who would I have to become to make that happen? Who would I have had to become since I was 15 to make that happen by the time of 25? But even from today till then, hell of a lot different. I had to show up a lot better and a lot more than I'm doing right now, right? So those are things to think about. Again, there's an exercise in your coaching playbook on how to actually identify your big why. But again, this is the kind of stuff I want to connect you to, because I'm not just doing this just like as a hoorah type of thing, because honestly, that stuff's not appealing to me. It's like, I actually want to see you guys show up for yourself and play with a little intensity, because if not, there's no reason to be here, right? This is not the industry for chumps. Your life by design, not the default, needs a strategy. So number one, define your why. Number two, what is your accomplished date? Number three, define the action steps. Number four, take massive action towards your vision. So if your big why is not super definable by a date, you could break it down into bite-sized chunks. Like, if you want to be retired by 40, that's your big why, because you just want to be there for your kids and every single day know that you wake up and choose what you do. Cool. That's technically a definable day, but you could also break it down into further steps. What would you have to do by 25, by 30, by 40, by so on to actually make that happen? You know what I mean? And move from there. So your vision reality, again, life by design, define a strategy, discover your vision, design your life. Questions, comments, concerns? So I will roll out. Good.
But thank you.
Yes, appreciate you. Good to see you. So just to recap, I will roll out the 30, 60, 90 here shortly for competencies. That way it's very easy for you guys to know the answer to the question, what should I be doing now? The most basic answer to that question is building your database and talking to people. if you do those two things, really by default, either one, nothing else matters because you're going to get business regardless. And number two, it's going to force you to see your weak points on what you need to improve, which is then going to lead you back to resources in the end, right? It's a reoccurring cycle. So that, and then obviously in the 30, 60, 90 and your core competencies, that's like your, what should I know type of situation, right? Like by the time you get out of the program, I need to know you guys can present well, you guys can handle objections, you have your database set up, you have even Tyler, he went and got a business bank account set up now that he's making some money, all that good stuff, right? So if you guys need anything, let me know. Again, homework, if you guys have not done launch one so far, so finish identifying your big why on page 6, get more familiar with the KW website and resources. Again, the whole reason we're starting here is because I just want to plant some seeds for you guys. So when we actually start talking about your numerical goals, as fun as those are, so it's not just something you put on paper to make me happy, like, because truthfully, I'd rather have it be blank than have you just make up something, you know what I mean? Like, I want you guys to actually attach yourself to goals that get you excited and just make it happen, you know? So let me know if you guys need anything otherwise. I'll probably roll this out here by the end of the week, and then we'll kind of tweak some other resources as we go. But David, good to see you, my man. Thanks for jumping on.
Yeah, man, for sure.